My stepson told me, "You're not our dad. You're just mom's mistake." So I packed up my office, removed my name from the lease, and took back the car I paid for. They thought I was temporary. I proved them right on purpose. My name is Brian. I'm 44. I used to live in Savannah, Georgia, though calling it living feels generous now. It was more like financing a reality where I was the background noise. Necessary but never acknowledged. Like the hum of a refrigerator. You only notice it when it stops. When people ask how I ended up married to a woman with 2 kids and a heart full of ashes, I tell them the truth. I didn't walk into a family. I walked into a house that needed repairs. I didn't ask to be dad. I didn't expect gratitude. I came with 2 hands and a paycheck. That was enough, or so I thought. I met Hannah on a Tuesday. Funny what you remember. She wore this look. Not just tired, but depleted. The kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from one bad night. It comes from years of carrying the load for 3 people and watching none of them notice. I recognized that look. I'd worn it once, before I swore I'd never pick up weight that wasn't mine again. But there she was, beautiful, sharp, with those eyes that flickered like someone used to being let down but still hoping for a different ending. And there were the kids. Troy, 16. Bella, 12. And a ghost named Derek who floated in and out of their lives just enough to be remembered but never enough to be counted on. Derek was the kind of man who showed up with gifts and debts in the same breath. Smooth talker. Lied like he was born for it. Took what he wanted and left just enough behind to keep his name alive. A new phone at Christmas. A call on birthdays if he wasn't too drunk. Never child support. Never responsibility. Just shadows and excuses. I didn't come to replace him. I didn't come to compete. I came to fill the gaps. Someone had to. So I moved them into a rental outside Charlotte. Quiet neighborhood. Decent schools. Lease in my name. Bills in my name. Credit card in my name. Everything in my name except the people. Rent? Me. Power and water? Me. Cell phone plans? Me. Braces for Bella? Me. Car for Troy? Also me. I even taught him to drive. Spent weekends in parking lots guiding a kid who never once said thank you. Just rolled his eyes and muttered that Derek would have let him go faster. I didn't do it for applause. I believed that respect came quietly, not from demanding it, but by showing up every day when others didn't. I figured love was a tree you watered, not a banner you waved. So I paid, and worked, and fixed, and built, hoping one day I'd look around and feel like I belonged. But the cracks showed early. At dinner, I was a ghost at the table. They had inside jokes I wasn't part of. References to things Derek did. Remember when Dad used to? That word, Dad, always said with nostalgia, like he was a hero who died in battle, not a man who fled the scene. Bella would call me Brian like it was a punchline. She said it with a smile too wide for her age. Like she knew it dug somewhere deep. I never corrected her. I didn't want to force anything. Troy barely spoke. When he did, it was in one-word replies. Mostly grunts. Headphones in, eyes glued to his screen. He walked around the house like it wasn't mine. Like I was the one who needed permission to speak. Hannah? She tried. In the beginning. Said they needed time. That they were still adjusting. But after a while, her silence felt less like patience and more like complicity. She'd laugh when they mocked me. Not cruelly, just enough to signal that she wasn't going to step in. I was on my own. I swallowed it. Told myself it wasn't about me. That kids test boundaries. That they'd grow out of it. Then came the sneakers. I came home one evening from a 10-hour shift. The stairs were blocked. A pile of dirty, mud-caked sneakers left dead center like a trap. I nearly tripped. My hands were full, laptop bag, receipts, dinner I picked up on the way. Troy? I said, calm but tired. Can you move your shoes? Someone's going to fall. He didn't even look up. Just muttered, you're not our dad. You're just mom's mistake. A temporary guest. That word, temporary, hit like a quiet bullet. Not shouted. Not spat. Just dropped. Cold and deliberate. Like a verdict from a jury I never got to face. Bella giggled. Not even subtle. Just loud. Unfiltered amusement. She didn't look at me. Didn't need to. I stood there for a long moment, not saying anything, not because I was stunned, but because I understood. Finally, it wasn't going to change. It wasn't going to get better. I wasn't building a family. I was subsidizing one. That night, I lay next to Hannah in silence. Her back was to me. I thought about the shoes, the stairs, the word temporary. I wondered if she'd heard it, or if she'd just chosen not to. I thought about everything I'd paid for, the car Troy drove, the Wi-Fi they used, the phones in their hands. All me. And still, I was a visitor in my own life. The next morning, the shoes were still there. I stepped over them. I didn't say a word. But that was the moment something in me stopped bending. Not because I was angry. I wasn't. Not yet. I was just done making excuses for people who didn't see me. They always say the big moments feel loud. Doors slamming, voices raised, glass shattering. But that's not how it happened for me. No, the moment I broke was quiet. There. Just noise in the kitchen. Music too loud. TikToks echoing off tile. Fast food bags scattered like trophies. It was a Friday. I'd come home early, hoping to spend some quiet time with Hannah. Maybe make dinner, pour a drink, talk like we used to. But the house wasn't quiet. It was chaos. Bella had 3 friends over, teenage girls shouting, cackling, spraying perfume like bug spray. Troy was holding court in the living room, phone pointed at his face, shouting some nonsense into TikTok. I stood in the doorway, unnoticed. "Yo," I said, "can you keep it down a bit?" Troy didn't turn, didn't pause the video, didn't even flinch. Instead, he smirked, like he knew exactly how little I mattered, and said into his phone, "Can't even chill in your own house without some random dude getting in the way. Mom's mistake is home early." Laughter. Loud. Crude. Bella's friends joined in. Even Bella chuckled. Nobody looked my way. That was it. Not the insult I'd heard worse. It was the agreement. The way everyone just accepted it like it was truth. Like I was a joke written in the margins of someone else's story. I didn't say anything. Didn't yell. Just turned, walked down the hall, and stepped into the only room that had ever belonged to me, my office. I closed the door, locked it, sat down in the chair I'd assembled myself, looked around at the things I bought. The desk, the monitor, the chair, the shelves. All of it mine. And then I opened my drawer and pulled out a notepad. Started writing. Rent? Me. Utilities? Me. Internet streaming, phones? Me. Car payments? Me. Bella's software subscriptions? Me. Troy's phone? Me. Groceries? Gas? Doctor bills? Me. Every line a transaction. Every transaction a confession. I wasn't angry. I was done. Took me less than an hour to begin the extraction. I opened my laptop and logged into every account I owned. Spotify Family Plan canceled. Netflix gone. Amazon Prime removed their profiles. Bella's Adobe Student account deactivated. Cell phone plan? Removed both of them. Let their phones fall silent. I called the insurance company. Had Troy's car taken off the policy. Then I took the keys. Locked the car in the garage. I didn't need it, but I owned it. I emailed the landlord. Gave a 30-day notice of non-renewal. The house, the one they lived in like squatters with Wi-Fi, would soon be gone. Not foreclosed. Not evicted. Just unavailable. Because I was removing the scaffolding that held it all up. An hour later, the internet went out. Bella was the first to notice. She knocked on the office door, soft at first, then harder. "Brian? The Wi-Fi's not working." I didn't answer. She tried the door. Locked. I could hear her sigh, then stomp off. 15 minutes later, Troy banged on the door. "You turned the internet off? What the hell, man?" Still, I said nothing. Let them sit with silence. Let them taste absence. Eventually, Hannah knocked. Quiet. Almost polite. "Brian, what's going on?" I opened the door. She looked worried. Not angry. Not sad. Just uncertain. Like she knew the pieces were shifting but didn't know how far they'd moved. "The Wi-Fi's out," she said. Troy said, "I know." She blinked. "Did something happen?" I looked her dead in the eyes. Steady. Cold. "You all said I was temporary. I'm just following your logic. She stood there, mouth slightly open, eyes searching mine for something. A joke, a smile, a flicker of the man she married. But he was gone. He had packed his bags inside me and left the house before she even knocked. That night, chaos. Troy shouting that I was being petty. Bella crying that her schoolwork was on the cloud and she couldn't access it. Hannah flipping between guilt and gaslighting. "This isn't fair," she said. "They're kids. They're old enough to know what respect is," I replied. "They're just acting out. Teenagers do that." I nodded. "Then they can figure out how to pay for data like grown-ups." "You're punishing them." "No, I'm removing myself. That's not punishment. That's self-preservation." She didn't understand, or didn't want to, because for her, my giving had become the baseline. Expected. Automatic. Like the house breathing. She didn't see it as sacrifice. She saw it as maintenance. I didn't sleep in our bed that night. I stayed in the office. Closed the door. Pulled out my old cot. The same one I used back when I was in college. Back when everything I had fit into a single closet. Felt right. Felt honest. Next day, the fallout began. Troy tried to call his girlfriend. Phone line dead. He came storming into the office. "You took me off the plan?" "Yes." "What the hell, man? I'm not your dad. Remember?" He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Bella tried to. Knocked, pleaded. Said she had homework due. That she needed her Adobe login. That it wasn't her fault. I didn't answer. Because she'd laughed. That was her answer days ago. Her vote. I left them with the silence they gave me. Hannah tried the soft route. Brought coffee. Said we needed to talk. Said she knew things were strained. I told her I'd be out in 30 days. She blinked. Out. I gave notice. This house was in my name. You'll need to find something else. But where would we go? I shrugged. Not my concern anymore. She started to cry. I didn't comfort her. Not because I was cruel, but because the tears weren't for me. They were for the inconvenience, the disruption, the sudden realization that the man in the background had teeth. Boundaries. They thought I was safe. Thought I'd bend forever. But bending becomes breaking. And I had broken, just not the way they expected. I stopped doing dishes. Stopped fixing the Wi-Fi. Stopped filling the gas tank. Let the trash pile up. Let them taste the parts of life they'd never bothered to notice. Troy asked to borrow the car. I tossed the keys in the drawer. Locked it. Go ask your real dad, I said. Bella asked for money for a field trip. I looked up from my book. Try Derek. But he won't. I know. She stood there, quiet, then left. They tried shame. Accusation. Hannah said I was heartless. Said I was abandoning them. I reminded her of the stairs, of the shoes, of the silence that followed. You didn't correct him, I said. You let him say I was a mistake. And now I'm fixing it. They didn't know how to respond. Because they thought love meant permanence. They thought the more you gave, the more you'd stay. They were wrong. I wasn't running. I was resigning. And when a man resigns, you don't get to keep his labor. You sit with the empty desk. You stare at the chair. And you realize maybe he did more than you ever admitted. Maybe he was never the guest. Maybe you were. 2 weeks. That's how long it took before the cracks turned to collapse. At first, they acted like nothing had changed. They carried on with their noise and their phones and their rolling eyes. Like I was still in the background, still footing the bill out of habit. They thought the man who carried them wouldn't really walk away. That I'd make noise, sure, but I'd keep paying. They were wrong. Troy was the first to feel it. His phone slipped from his hand one afternoon and landed face down on the sidewalk. Screen spidered like shattered ice. He brought it to me, casual like always, expecting the same old result. Me handing him a replacement or calling the store to schedule the fix. Need a new one, he said. It's dead. I looked at him, really looked. You should talk to your father, I said. His mouth twitched. He won't. I cut him off. Then you'll have to figure something out. He stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. Then stormed off, muttering under his breath. But he didn't get a new phone. Bella came next. She had an assignment due, video editing, graphics, some class project that required software I used to pay for. She opened her laptop, clicked the icon. Access denied. License canceled. She panicked, knocked on my door twice. She wasn't crying, but she was close. "Please," she said. "I need it. Just for school. I'll lose points." I didn't move. "You laughed," I said. Her mouth fell open. "What?" "You laughed. When your brother called me a mistake. When he said I was temporary. You laughed." "I didn't mean." "Neither did I." She stood there, frozen, then turned and walked away. Later that night, I heard her crying in her room. I didn't go to her. Not because I wanted her to suffer, but because I knew she needed to feel it. The gap, the absence, the price of contempt. Hannah kept her distance at first. She thought I was bluffing, thought it was just another man sulking until his pride deflated. But then the landlord called, asked about the move-out timeline, said he had new tenants lined up. She confronted me in the kitchen. Late night, kids asleep. "You really gave notice?" I didn't look up from my coffee. "Yeah. And you weren't going to tell me?" "I just did." She sat down hard in the chair, rubbed her temples like she was the one under pressure. "What are we supposed to do?" I shrugged. "You'll figure it out. We can't afford a place like this without you." "I know. Not even close." I took a sip, let the silence stretch. "You said I was temporary," I said. "I'm just getting out of the way." "I never said that." "You didn't stop it." She opened her mouth, closed it. That was the beginning of her unraveling. She tried guilt next. Left old photos on the counter. Pictures of us at the beach. Birthday cakes I paid for. Trips I planned. Her and me in front of the house. Arms around each other. Fake smiles trying to hide real cracks. I picked them up. Put them in the trash. The next week was quiet. Eerily so. They'd stopped shouting. Stopped laughing. The house was a tomb now. No music. No TikToks. Just whispering, stress, and doors closed a little too hard. Then came the scramble. They started asking questions. "When are you leaving? Will the Wi-Fi stay on? Where are we going to go? Can you help with one more thing? Just until?" No, no, no. And again, no. They called Derek. I know because I heard the calls. Troy's voice, angry and desperate. "She said we're getting kicked out." "What do you mean you can't help?" Bella's, quieter. "Can you cover just my phone for a while, please?" But Derek was the man he always was. Absent in the flesh, full of excuses over the line. "I'm between jobs. Money's tight. Your mom needs to handle that." They were finally reaching for the man whose name they'd always defended. And he didn't answer the call. Troy came to me again. This time he looked smaller. Less mouth, more panic. "Can you at least fix the phone? Just the screen. I'll pay you back." I laughed. Not cruelly, but honestly. Like hearing a child ask for a loan when you know they never once saw the bills. "Pay me back with what?" "I'll get a job." Should have started sooner. He stood there, fists clenched. "You're really just going to let us fall?" I looked at him, not angry, not smug. "You never knew you were standing on my shoulders." He left, slammed the door. I didn't follow. Bella left notes, slipped them under the door. "I'm sorry. I didn't know what you did. Please don't leave. I miss how things were." I read them all. Didn't respond. Because the apology was too late. Not just because it came after consequence, but because it was born from need, not understanding. Hannah broke last. 2 days before I moved out, she came into the office. No makeup. Eyes red. Shoulders caved in. "You're really doing this." "I told you." "But we're a family." "No," I said. "We were a transaction. And the debt came due. I never wanted this." "Then you should have stood up for me." She cried. Said she made mistakes. That she thought I'd never leave. That I was the one thing she could count on. "That's the problem," I said. "You counted on me, but never with me." She didn't answer. I left that weekend. Took my laptop, my clothes, my files, the last checkbook they hadn't drained. They didn't stop me, just watched. From the front porch. All three of them. Troy silent. Bella holding her phone like it was a relic. Hannah wrapped in a hoodie too thin for the cold. I didn't wave. Didn't look back. I moved into a studio downtown. Small. Sparse. Clean. The quiet felt like oxygen. No dishes I didn't use. No lights left on. No half-eaten food in the fridge. Just me. And peace. For the first time in years, I felt like I was standing on solid ground, not trying to carry everyone else across a bridge they were cutting from behind. A week later, Hannah called. I let it go to voicemail. Then her sister. Then Derek. That one I answered. Man to man, he said. You can't just bail on kids. Man to man, I replied. You already did. Click. Bella sent an email. Just a subject line. I didn't get it before. The body read. I thought everything just worked. Bills got paid. Groceries appeared. I never asked who made it happen. Then you left. And everything stopped. It scared me. I didn't reply right away. I printed it. Folded it. Filed it in a drawer marked proof. A week later I wrote back. Short. Clear. Thanks for saying that. But I didn't leave to hurt you. I left to make a point. And you needed to feel it. She didn't write again. But that was okay. She'd felt it. The lesson was planted. And the house of cards they built on my silence had finally collapsed. It's been a year. 12 months since I walked out that door, took my name off the lease, and left them standing in the wreckage they never thought they'd have to clean. It didn't feel triumphant. It didn't feel cruel. It felt necessary. Like surgery. Like pulling a knife out of your own side and deciding not to bleed for anyone else ever again. They moved. Of course they did. After I stopped paying the rent, the landlord told them the next lease wouldn't have my name on it. Which meant no lease at all. No more discounts. No more I'll get it to you Friday deals that came with my presence. Without my credit score, without my steady income, without my stability, they didn't qualify. Hannah found a small 2-bedroom apartment in a noisy block on the east side of Atlanta. Not Savannah. Not Charlotte. A last-minute scramble in a city where the only thing louder than the traffic is the regret. I heard it from a mutual friend. One of the few who didn't take sides, or maybe who quietly knew I never had a side to begin with. I was the foundation, and when a foundation disappears, everything built on it gets measured. Troy sleeps on a couch now. Bella shares a room with her mom. The Wi-Fi is spotty, the neighbors fight too loud, and the walls are thin enough that everyone hears when someone cries. I didn't celebrate it. I didn't take joy in it, but I didn't stop it either, because sometimes pain is the only tutor left when all the warnings have been ignored. They thought I'd come back. That was the part one underestimated, how much they truly believed I was incapable of leaving. Like I was gravity. Like I was air. Just something that had always been there and would always stay. They thought wrong. In the first month, I got texts from Hannah. The kind that bounce between memory and guilt. She'd say things like, "Remember our trip to Asheville? You made the fire that night. I missed that." Then a day later, "I can't believe you left them. What kind of man just walks away from kids?" And then 2 days later, "Can we talk? Please. For closure." Closure. That's the word people use when they don't want to say control. I ignored most of them. Not because I hated her. I didn't. Still don't. But because I knew that responding was opening the door they thought they could always knock on. And I had locked it for a reason. Bella emailed again around month 3. More thoughtful this time. Less panic. Less need. She said she was reading more. That school felt harder without the software I used to pay for. That sometimes, when things got quiet, she realized how loud I had been. Not in voice, but in presence. "Your fingerprints were on everything," she wrote, "and I only saw them after they faded." I read it twice, maybe 3 times, but I didn't write back. She needed to sit with that. I wasn't angry anymore. That's the thing people don't understand. The final act of detachment doesn't come from rage. It comes from clarity. I had nothing left to prove. I had carried them far beyond what was fair. beyond what was wise. They had disrespected the bridge while they walked across it. Now they were in the river. Let them swim. Derek, the ghost in their lives, tried once. Just once. Sent me a Facebook message. Said I was bitter. Said a real man doesn't walk out on kids just because they don't appreciate him. I replied with one sentence. A real man doesn't stand where he's not respected. He didn't respond. Because he knew. If I was bitter, it was a flavor poured into me by his absence. By his neglect. By the way his shadow hung over that house like a flag planted in someone else's yard. But I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. That studio apartment downtown became my chapel. There's no yelling there. No one slams the door. The groceries I buy are the groceries I eat. I wake up when I want. I sleep when I'm tired. There's no guilt in the air. No tightness in my chest when I pull into the driveway. I sit on the balcony some nights and watch the streetlight flicker against the sidewalk. It's not glamorous. There's graffiti on the dumpsters and the hum of traffic in the distance. But it's mine. Every inch of it. Paid for by me. Owned by me. Undisputed. Sometimes I think about what could have been. If Troy had said thank you once. If Bella had spoken up when she saw the weight I carried. If Hannah had told her children that love without respect is theft. But they didn't. And so I left. The truth is simple. If I had stayed, I would have taught them the worst lesson of all. That you can treat someone like a doormat and still expect the welcome mat to be laid out the next day. I would have taught them that manhood is servitude. That fatherhood is martyrdom. That love means enduring silence and contempt without ever drawing a line. I would have shown them how to use a man. And I refuse to be that example. I refuse to hand the next generation a blueprint for how to exploit devotion. So I drew the line. And I didn't move it. One night, months later, I got one last message from Bella. Just a sentence. I didn't realize silence could be so loud. I didn't reply, because she was right. Silence is louder than shouting when it comes from someone who used to carry everything without making a sound. And that's the lesson. Not rage. Not revenge. Absence. Real, undeniable absence. The kind that can't be patched with apologies or money or last minute. I didn't mean it messages. The kind that changes people. They don't get a hero's redemption arc. This isn't that kind of story. They get consequences. And I get peace. I walk past fathers in grocery stores now. Men loading groceries into carts while their stepchildren scroll on phones and mutter insults under their breath. I hear the tones. The sharp words. The passive-aggressive sighs. The silence from the wives. And I want to stop them. Shake them. Ask, do you think this will end differently for you? But I don't. Because some lessons can't be told. They have to be lived. So now I sit with my peace. With my silence. With my solitude. And I ask you, whoever's still listening, whoever read this far, was I wrong? Was I wrong to step away when I was treated like furniture? Was I wrong to let the bills fall where the gratitude never rose? Was I cruel to teach by absence what kindness could never carve into stone? Would you have stayed? Would you have swallowed the insults? The silence? The slow erosion of identity? Would you have kept paying for people who saw your presence as a problem? I won't pretend to have the answer, but I know this. They thought I was temporary, and I made sure they were right. On purpose.